Lives, people treated as disposable.
She sold my daughter for, gas money, $20, gas money.
But what happens when justice falls short?
It's like you're traumatized twice.
We investigate the barriers to prosecuting human trafficking cases and the push for change.
I think the decision from the district court was wrong.
The battle over the Texas redistricting map reaches the U.S. Supreme Court.
I think the Constitution is on his side of these two judges that ruled with us.
How the court battle is adding uncertainty in the race to determine whether Democrats or Republicans control Congress. Could FEMA move its headquarters from Washington to Texas? We look at how the search for a new leader is putting a spotlight on the Lone Star State.
Produced from the Capitol in Austin and airing statewide, this is the award-winning State of Texas.
Hello, and thank you for joining us. I'm Josh Hinkle. The deadly realities of human trafficking in Texas haunt families and survivors for years. But for many people impacted, justice is elusive. Jennifer Sanders investigates the challenges prosecutors face in holding alleged traffickers accountable.
"4 days from her high school prom. And the next day is when the state troopers come to our home.
May 2018. Julia Wells, barely 18 years old, was just a few weeks shy of graduating high school. Her mom, Mary Wells, remembers the excitement she shared with people she met about this new chapter in life.
She talked to everybody. Everybody was her friend. She was autistic, so she didn't know a stranger at all. She loved everybody.
A few days before prom, Julia told her mom she wanted to spend time with a friend.
I got a text message, "Mom, I'm going to stay with my friend for a couple of days. I'll be back on Thursday to get ready for prom because we have nails and hair before prom on Saturday."
Julia never made it home.
And the state trooper said there was an incident on the North Texas Tollway. I was like, "Well, where is she?" They said she didn't make it.
The initial police report said Julia's death was unexplained, but Wells said law enforcement told her Julia's body was found on the Dallas North Tollway.
"Your daughter came out of a moving vehicle going at high rate of speed."
Wells soon learned Julia had been trafficked, and one of those involved was a woman she had called her friend.
The one question I was able to ask was, what did she sell her for? She sold my daughter for, gas money, $20, gas money. And I said I would have given her more than that to bring her home.
Julia's death became part of a multi-agency human trafficking investigation in Collin County, during which her mother learned how to navigate a legal system that delayed justice for years. She says the pandemic, turnover at the district attorney's office, and simply getting someone to take a closer look at her case were major hurdles. And she believes her persistent calls to the DA's office finally led to movement.
Oh yeah, they got tired of me.
How often were you calling?
I'd call them about every day.
A grand jury eventually returned indictments in the case. These are the suspects charged with human trafficking-related offenses. The first trial is expected in March, nearly 8 years after Julia's death.
So there's 1,100 here, and these are just reports.
Data we obtained from DA offices in 4 Central Texas counties and Dallas County from 2021 to now shows a snapshot of the delay in those places. More than 90 human trafficking cases still pending, with victims there waiting an average of more than 500 days for justice so far since their alleged offenses occurred, leaving families like Wells and survivors like B. Sawyer in limbo.
I was trafficked when I was from the ages of 15 to 17. I was trafficked at truck stops, all on I-10, I-20, and then I-30, like going across the state.
Sawyer said she was trafficked by her father. Court records show he was recently convicted of sexual assault of a child and sentenced to life in prison.
How many years have you been fighting to seek justice?
So I first filed charges in 2020, so 5 years. you hear what your trafficker said, and you're afraid of cops and, law enforcement and everybody really.
That's why she says it took her so long to share her story.
But it's hard, and really it's like you're traumatized twice, because what happened to you, but then trying to navigate everything and then telling you have to tell your statement so many times, it's just exhausting. The first thing she did was
having a trauma-informed advocate is what she says helped her move forward. For her and Mary Wells, that advocate was Jacqueline Aludo of No Trafficking Zone.
We help build cases with law enforcement. We then walk with the victims through court.
Aludo spends years with survivors and their families to help secure prosecutions while pressing DAs and judges to enforce the state's human trafficking laws and ensure the crime matches the penalty.
In a lot of our counties, it's been deferred, probation, a slap on the wrist, or a trafficker, a pedophile gets 5 years, and then he pleads down, and then he's really in jail for 2 years.
Since 2021, district court data shows prosecutors filed more than 1,600 human trafficking cases statewide. But Texas Department of Criminal Justice data shows only 112 people currently serving prison sentences statewide for trafficking convictions in that same time period. From your vantage point, what would you say makes human trafficking just so difficult to prosecute in the state of Texas?
There are a lot of reasons I think human trafficking cases can be difficult to prosecute. I think it starts with really identifying it's like a closed community. And then I think a secondary challenge is that sometimes it's crossing state lines, it's crossing national borders. And so finding the witnesses, even once you locate them originally, has become a problem.
Williamson County District Attorney Sean Dick admits across Texas, prosecutions under the human trafficking statute are rare because there are more elements of the crime to prove for a conviction. So prosecutors explore other offenses.
When you can prosecute someone for a first-degree felony, you can still put that information on in punishment. So a jury can still sentence them based on all of the factors. And so it's usually preferable to take our easier charge to prove.
In the counties where we focused our data analysis, human trafficking cases that result in plea agreements are often negotiated down to compelling or promoting prostitution. In exchange for guilty pleas to those charges, prosecutors typically drop the trafficking charge. To secure trafficking convictions, Dick says his office is focused on specialized training and getting prosecutors involved in cases earlier to work with police to build a case that can secure a conviction under that statute.
Educate our community, educate our own prosecutors, and also to give us some tools that we didn't even know existed. And that's really why we joined with HTI to try to help.
HTI, or Human Trafficking Institute, is leading a new multi-year partnership with law enforcement and district attorneys' offices in 5 Texas counties, including Williamson. HTI's focus to identify gaps and opportunities in pursuing these cases.
And then we're measuring impact. So not just how many people are trained or supported, but how many arrests and or convictions result as a part of this partnership.
Additionally, HTI is helping prosecutors build evidence when a survivor is not available and tackling comprehensive data collection across the state, which experts say can be key to informing solutions.
How can we better measure success?
Yeah, I think success around human trafficking looks different, and as prosecutors, we're told not to just convict, but to see that justice is done. And that means you're looking at the welfare and the desires and interests of victims of crime.
An approach that provides hope to these women as they continue to fight.
It makes me feel like what I would have wanted for Joya had she still been alive. I would have wanted somebody to step in and help.
It seems very, very hopeless, especially when you're being re-traumatized. You want to just fold the cards and give up, and it really, honestly, it would feel easier that way. I just keep telling myself it's worth it. you're not turning back. You've come too far and you owe it to yourself.
Jennifer Sanders, State of Texas.
Of the 5 counties we analyzed, we found the overall average from the time of an alleged human trafficking offense to the closure of the case is 674 days. That has some people asking if the state needs more policies to speed up prosecutions and increase convictions.
People think that, oh, Senator Parker, you passed a bill. Great, 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 great. You're all done. No, it's just the beginning.
A Texas senator believes a new law he authored will lead to more prosecutions. Up next, you'll hear from him about his work to bolster penalties for traffickers. And later, the Supreme Court weighing in on the battle over the redistricting map passed by Texas lawmakers, the reaction, and what comes next.
She sold my daughter for, gas money, $20, gas money.
Mary Wells's daughter, 18-year-old Julia, died in 2018. Her body was found on the side of the Dallas North Tollway, a victim of human trafficking. In 2026, 3 suspects will face trafficking-related charges in court nearly 8 years after Julia's death. While experts tell us the state of Texas is one of the leaders in anti-human trafficking legislation, enforcement of that legislation is an issue. Our Jennifer Sanders spoke with State Senator Tan Parker. He authored Senate Bill 11, which passed in the last special session. It provides an affirmative defense for certain human trafficking victims who commit alleged crimes under their traffickers' force, fraud, or coercion.
When you look at what we've been able to do just this special session with Senate Bill 11, which is the bill that I've authored that was on the call as one of our special session items, it's going to give, I think, prosecutors a much more enhanced level of success, because victims are going to feel so much more comfortable now being able to talk to prosecutors about what really happened in their case. It's going to turn this entire paradigm upside down.
And when we talk about the framework of Senate Bill 11, how can the state ensure that Senate Bill 11 is being successfully implemented as it relates to DA's offices and make sure that they're utilizing them?
Well, look, as the author of the bill, I hold myself responsible. I'll be very candid, okay? People think that, oh, Senator Parker, you passed a bill. Great, 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 great. You're all done. No, it's just the beginning. And so you've got to make sure that it's implemented with fidelity. And that means making sure that DAs are using the tool that we've given them.
How do we track the success of those bills and make sure that they're being enforced at the county level and at the state level?
Well, it's a great question. We all depend on the agencies of government to implement them with fidelity. And so that means the state agency level, but it also means things that, really put that requirement on a city or on a county or on a school district. So we're always trying to collect data to understand whether or not there's fidelity to the legislation that we pass.
And speaking of that, just data collection, should there be a statewide system, a repository where all of that data goes from various agencies so that you can track it and so that you can measure the success?
My perspective is yes, as long as we maintain the appropriate constitutional safeguards and so forth to protect people's privacy appropriately, yes, I think access to that data is very important. Data is critical, right, to the fight, the law enforcement fight, the prosecution fight, all of those things. But we need to make certain that individuals' names and experiences are never obviously accessible to the public at large or anything along those lines. We've got to protect the confidentiality of these victims.
So now that technology has advanced so with AI,
yes.
And it's how does legislation keep up with that?
Well, that's 100%. So I've got to be able to create legislation that is flexible and nimble, that enables, if you will, this pace of technology development to keep up.
You can see more from our investigation right now on our website. Jennifer spoke with victims, survivors, and experts about their experiences and the work to eliminate barriers to prosecuting human trafficking cases. You can find links in this week's State of Texas story.
I'm feeling good about where we are legally.
A decision by a panel of federal judges shakes up the race to decide who represents you in Washington. Now the Supreme Court is weighing in. we dig into a major development in the fight between Republicans and Democrats over control of Congress. FEMA is looking for a new leader after their acting director steps down. Why that could mean a major move for the agency and for a high-profile Texan. Major developments in the fight between Republicans and Democrats over control of Congress. On Friday, the Supreme Court issued an injunction to pause a lower court's ruling to block the redistricting map passed by the Texas legislature. U.S. District Judge Jeffrey Brown, a Trump appointee, wrote the 160-page opinion. He wrote, quote, "To be sure, politics played a role in drawing the 2025 map, but it was much more than just politics. Substantial evidence shows that Texas racially gerrymandered the 2025 map." But in a blistering dissent, Judge Jerry Smith accused the two other judges on the panel of overstepping. He noted that California redrew its maps to boost Democrats and said the Texas court ruling makes George Soros and California Governor Gavin Newsom the main winners. The outcome led to a quick appeal from state leaders, setting the stage for a crucial decision by the nation's highest court.
I think the decision from the district court was wrong.
Reaction to the lower court's ruling on the congressional map fell largely along party lines.
The maps that the Republicans drew were so racist and so discriminatory that I'm surprised that they could even concoct such a scheme in their head. I'm feeling good about where we are legally.
If you look at the map, you can see that it was drawn in ways that are fair and free and open.
Texas is a red state. Texas is a conservative state, and the legislature wanted Texas to elect more Republicans to represent the values of the vast majority of Texans.
People on opposite sides of the aisle also made note of the judge who delivered the opinion.
They have a Republican conservative Trump appointee who wrote a 160-page opinion saying that this redrawing of the map in Texas violated the Voting Rights Act and was unconstitutional.
That's not a good thing. That's not a good thing. And he was appointed by Trump. You know, a little concerned about that. I'm not worried about my district because you're not beating me in my district.
The decision comes as candidates are filing for a spot on the ballot in the March primary. U.S. Congressman Lloyd Doggett said he would not run for re-election if courts approved the redistricting map. For now, the Austin Democrat is back in the race.
I barred from Mark Twain in saying the reports of my political death are greatly exaggerated. For my community, it means better representation.
The state quickly appealed the district court's decision, sending the case to the U.S. Supreme Court on Friday night. The court issued an injunction, but the High Court will decide later whether the new maps will be used for next year's primary. The unresolved situation brings uncertainty for someone like John Lira. He announced intentions to run in the newly drawn District 35 as a Democrat.
We're going to continue to go forward as if these maps are still in play, as if we're running in the 35 for now.
For Democrats like Doggett, the hope is that the court decides to keep the maps drawn in 2021 for next year's March primary.
I think the Constitution is on his side of these two judges that ruled with us, and I hope the court will uphold it.
Republicans don't expect that decision to stand.
And I fully expect the U.S. Supreme Court to stay the result within the next couple of weeks. I think we're going to see the map that the legislature drawn used in this upcoming election.
While December 8th is the filing deadline for candidates, it's not clear if the Supreme Court will act before that date. The court issues opinions on its own schedule, leaving candidates in limbo for now. A federal agency could make a move from D.C. to Texas. Why the search for a new leader for FEMA is putting the focus on one Texan with a critical job. Politico is reporting the Trump administration is considering moving the Federal Emergency Management Agency headquarters to Texas. The outlet is citing two former senior FEMA officials. Its report says the administration wants the current head of the Texas Division of Emergency Management to lead FEMA. Washington Bureau reporter Hannah Brandt looks closer at the big change.
This is a time of major upheaval at FEMA, and there's potentially more to come. I'm standing outside of FEMA's current headquarters here in Washington, D.C., but the agency is reportedly considering a big move down to Texas. That's according to Politico, which reports that former FEMA officials say the move would be to accommodate Nim Kidd. Kidd is the current head of Texas's state emergency management and is part of the FEMA Review Council that President Trump created to make big changes to FEMA. Because remember, President Trump has been very critical of FEMA's disaster response and has suggested a major overhaul and even eliminating the agency altogether. We saw a big shakeup with FEMA's leadership when Acting Administrator David Richardson resigned from the job after just 6 months in the role. He had recently faced criticism over his handling of the FEMA response to deadly flooding in Texas over the summer, though Richardson did defend that response at a hearing back in July.
You were nowhere near Texas at the critical moments in the search and rescue, and you did not even show your face for more than a week after the flood.
I was in constant communication with the state of Texas, DHS, and the White House handling the disaster immediately when I found out.
Richardson tells Nexstar's Vinay Simlot he was not forced out by the Trump administration, but left instead for other opportunities. He replaced a FEMA administrator who also had a very short tenure in the position and was ousted after he said he didn't think it was a good idea to eliminate FEMA. A spokesperson for the Department of Homeland Security, which oversees FEMA, does tell News Nation the FEMA Review Council is expected to release their final report soon. And that's where we could see any potential recommendations about a move of FEMA's headquarters. Now, there are some concerns that if that does happen, it could make coordination with DHS, which is headquartered here in Washington, D.C., a bit more difficult, therefore posing some challenges to getting disaster relief out to Americans. Back to you.
Thanks, Hannah. The Politico article noted that Chief Nim Kidd interviewed with the Trump administration for the FEMA top job earlier this year. The outlet reports that sources said even though the administration wanted Kidd, he was committed to serving Texas first. Thank you again for joining us for State of Texas. I'm Josh Hinkle. We'll be back next week to bring you an in-depth look at Texas politics.